Well, it's 12:30 and I want to be respectful and mindful of everyone's time this afternoon. Again, welcome to the College of the Mainland's 2020 Hispanic Heritage Celebration. And I'd like to start off with a word from the college president, Dr. Warren Nichols.
Hello, my name is Warren Nichols, president of College of the Mainland. And on behalf of the College of the Mainland, we welcome you to the Hispanic Heritage Celebration and to the faculty and the staff who have made this day possible. This includes our multicultural committee members, faculty members Dalel Serta and Rafael Naranjo, and the Spanish Student Alliance Club. College of the Mainland faculty participate actively in local and national organizations serving our Hispanic community. And our Hispanic Students Alliance provides students an opportunity to develop their leadership skills and to network with our faculty and our classmates. Currently, 36% of College of the Mainland students are of Hispanic heritage, and they are achieving at a record pace in completing certifications and degrees and transferring to senior universities. As a Hispanic serving institution, the goals of the federal grants that we have been awarded ensure that our students are successful. Our latest grant will enrich Hispanics and other students with a $3 million grant awarded focused on our STEM fields. The Mexican Consulate and College of the Mainland have also had a long history of cooperation in different areas, especially serving the Mexican community in our service area. In light of all of this, just at last week's board meeting, the Mexican Consulate General was recognized for a matching grant of almost $10,000 for Hispanic students taking classes at College of the Mainland. We at COM are proud to serve as an Hispanic serving institution and our strong partnerships with the Mexican Consulate. And we look forward to many years of developing an even closer tie to our Hispanic community.
All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Nichols, even though that was a pre-recorded virtual welcome. Always appreciative of taking time to do that for us. Next, I'd like to go ahead and share my screen and get the committee introduced. So I'm going to pull up the PowerPoint that's going to introduce, and I'd like to highlight the Hispanic Heritage Committee that participated in the planning of all the activities that we did this month, in highlighting specifically the essay. So again, I'm your Director of Student Life at College of the Mainland, Taj Cornelius, Professor Rafael Naranjo, Professor of Spanish serving on the committee, Professor Dalel Serta, Associate Professor of English, Christina Birdval, Director of CE Allied Health, Patty England, Administrative Assistant of the Process Technology and Welding Program, Kari Stars, Student Life Travel and Event Specialist, Diarmar Florence, Administrative Assistant, Student Life, and we had one student who is the President of the Hispanic Student Alliance, Lewis Wyndham, who also served on the committee. So this is the committee that did the great work putting all of the details together for us today. And I'd now like to turn it over to Professor Dalel Serta, who is going to talk about our essay scholarship contest. Dalel?
Hi, everyone. So we wanted to say thank you so much to the 14 fantastic writers that participated in this year's Hispanic Heritage Month Scholarship Essay Contest. And we hope that this will be a recurring event every fall. On behalf of the committee and on behalf of the subcommittee, the readers, we want to, I think we have an issue with the PowerPoint. Is that correct, Taj?
That is correct.
So
when I'm seeing the selections, if you can give me a quick second, I'm trying to find the correct PowerPoint, which was there, but it is playing games with me. Give me 10 seconds.
No problem. So while Taj is doing that, I wanted to say that we loved reading the 14 essays and we're moved by your stories, your pride, your compassionate yet revolutionary spirits. And we hope you will continue to take up opportunities to make a name for yourselves both at College of the Mainland and beyond. Professor Rafael Naranjo will also be inviting you to consider joining the Hispanic Student Alliance, a student organization that has your diverse student interests at its center. And we are nearly there. So the readers that helped make these final decisions concerning our winners were Professor Brian Anderson, Dr. Brian Anderson. He's the Humanities Department Chair. Rafael Naranjo, Spanish professor, myself, and Kari Stars. Next slide, Taj. There we go. So those are our wonderful readers. Lisa Adolf, Amanda Agado, Christian Baez, Horace Bardales, Brady Bergvall, Emily Escobar, Julia Garza, Kayla Hernandez, Enrique Lima, Jada Lozano, Selma Torres Quintero, Leonardo Rábago, Marissa Buitone, I hope I'm saying that correctly, and Dominic Way Bright. And I think most of you are here, so thank you for joining us. Again, thank you for your wonderful participation. We had a blast reading your essays. And the winners are, our third place winner is Julia Garza with her essay, Soy Latina y Mucho Más. Our second place winner is Enrique Lima with his essay, Hispanic Pride and Joy. And our final first place winner is Amanda Agado with her essay, The Latin Trailblazers. Congratulations to all three of you. The three of you will be receiving a word from me concerning your scholarships. And the first place winner, Amanda's essay, will be published on the College of the Mainland homepage. So we hope that you will be reading her essay. And again, on behalf of all of us, congratulations. And I'll turn the mic over to Rafael Naranjo.
Thank you, Dalel. Es un placer siempre trabajar con todos ustedes. Y as a member of the Texas Association of Chicanos in Higher Education, there is no greater pride, I think, a member, than to introduce the president of this organization that does so much for education, for students, for the faculties, for everybody in Texas, that to have the president. Let me introduce you to Daniel Villanueva, who is the new Hispanic, the man that is changing the world. So I just want you to be welcome when it comes to the mainland. You have your audience, and please let us know who you are and what you do. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your leadership.
Well, thank you so much, Rafael. I appreciate your kind words and also the invitation to serve as the keynote speaker for the College of the Mainland. I hope you guys can see my screen, and I will go ahead and start my presentation. And through my presentation, you'll learn a little bit about me. I'm not going to give a formal introduction of myself because it's all in the presentation, and hopefully you will find this as interesting as I do, sharing my life story with you. It's a life story of perseverance, commitment, and education. And I hope today that you will be inspired by a story that has yet reached its peak, but yet you can take away some really valuable lessons that I've learned in navigating a community college as a first-generation Latino student from rural Central Texas. But before we get started on the actual presentation, I'd like to recognize those who have allowed me an opportunity to engage with the College of Mainland faculty, staff, and students. If there are any College of the Mainland Board of Trustees that are on the call or see this at a later date, thank you so much for your support of Latino student success and the Hispanic students and faculty and staff at the College of the Mainland, as well as the president, Dr. Warren Nichols, for his gracious words and formal introduction Prior to my speech here, of course, Rafael, for the invitation to speak here and serving as an institutional member representing the College of the Mainland at the Texas Association of Chicanos in Higher Education, which is a statewide association. Also, Mr. Cornelius, thank you so much for allowing to fund this initiative, as well as the Hispanic Heritage Month. I've been a part of several institutions, and I can tell you the designation of Hispanic Serving Institution doesn't alone commit to a culture of inspiration and inclusion of Hispanics. And this event in and of itself speaks volume of the desire and the inclusivity that the College of the Mainland has, as well as your team who worked tirelessly to arrange this and travel paperwork and the contract paperwork, as well as the Hispanic Heritage Planning Committee. My thanks goes out to all of you for the invitation and participation up to this point. When I was contacted about the possibility of giving a keynote address, I admittedly said yes immediately. The invitation to share my story and hopefully inspire others is something that excites me. I researched what your Hispanic Heritage Month theme was, and it was, the writing essay portion was "Quién somos, quién decir, y quién controla nuestro destino." And I thought it would be important that I take the theme and narrative of the essay and break it down from my perspective of who am I, who decided my identity, and who will control my destiny, and share some lasting words not only with you as a faculty and staff member, but also any students out there who see themselves in me as a first generation poor Latino college student with no social capital and no experience navigating a complex environment we call higher education. So first and foremost, we'll start with who am I? Let's see if the next slide will come up. I am, that's me, right? And I look fantastic in the picture. Let me pull it back. I'm sorry, it didn't catch it, and now it's going a little too far. There it goes. That's me. I think I look fantastic in the picture, of course. In the area of social media and online presence, that photo is a little doctored. I do look relatively young, and I do look as good as the picture, but certainly with the adventure of Photoshop and apps, I can look a little bit more prestigious and better on my picture. But I want you to notice in particular who I define myself as the bottom here, right? When we think about identity and defining who we are, much of who we are defined by outsiders, right? An immediate perspective of looking at me, you might think that I'm short. You might think that I may be happy and jolly based on my smile. All of those things are the true constructs of who Daniel is. But first and foremost, what you see when you view me and what outsiders see when they view me is they see these qualities, right? They see these identities. And I share with you my identities to prove a point that as we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, we have to understand that Hispanics in general, Latinos in general, Mexican Americans in general, Chicanos in general, and Tejanos are very complex. And I'll walk you through the navigation of identity and who I am as I share my story with you, right? So for me, I'm a Mexican American. I'm a Hispanic. I'm also a Latino. I'm Chicano. I'm a proud Chicano. And I'm a Tejano. And each of those things mean very different things to me and my identity. I'll cover those throughout this presentation. But I'm also a father. I have a 7-year-old son with my wife, so I'm a husband. I'm a son. My parents did have me and are still around. I'm blessed with my parents. I'm a brother. I'm an uncle. I'm a friend. I'm a colleague. I'm a higher education administrator. As Rafael mentioned, I serve as the Associate Vice President for Enrollment Management at the University of Houston downtown. And I'm also a scholar. I have several published books, and I'm working on the latest article of a Journal of Latinos in Education. I serve as the president of the Texas Association of Chicanos in Higher Education. My nickname from my hometown is Bubba. I don't know why, but everyone in my small hometown knows me as Bubba or Little Daniel. And Little Daniel in reference to my father being a senior and me being a junior. Relatively new term. I'm a bad hombre, as the President of the United States describes that Latinos and Mexican Americans are bad hombres. We prize that term and have flipped it to become bad hombres who vote, bad hombres who write, and bad hombres who engage in politics, right? And I'm also a YouTuber. I have a YouTube channel that I'll share with you at the end if you're interested in learning more about me or possibly the topics that we discuss in our YouTube channel. So I grew up in a small town in Central Texas, and I am a fourth generation United States citizen. So that means, you know, for 4 generations, my family has lived in the state of Texas. And interestingly enough, from our perspective, we and my family included never crossed the border. For us, the border crossed us and made us Texans as we were once Mexican Americans way back when. I grew up in a small town in Central Texas called Rockdale, Texas, which is a predominantly white community. When I say small town, I'm talking about 6,000 people in the entire community. I grew up poor and unaware that I was poor. In these pictures here, you can see that I grew up in a loving family with a mother and a father and 2 sisters. The photo on the left with 2 young children, that handsome little young man smiling, is me. And then the picture on the right with the dad with some styling white socks and two young girls and a child is also me. I share these photos with you so you can get a perspective of our life back then. The photo with me and my young sister Olivia in the red shirts is a photo of us as happy as could be while we're with my father picking pecans in fields with pecan trees in Cameron, Texas. The photo on the right is the one vacation that I can remember in my entire life ever going on. That vacation is to Six Flags. And you can see the pride and joy and smiles in my face. And what's interesting in a depiction of this photo, these photos, is again, how poor and unaware we were. One of the things that I think is really interesting is the identity aspect of who I am. Being poor encouraged me in so many ways throughout my life. Today, I'm afraid of being poor. I'm afraid of going back to these days. And so it gives me a work ethic and a drive that has led me to somewhat being successful today and hopefully will lead me to a continued career and a successful career in higher education. Here is a family photo. You can see this was probably taken in the 90s with me trying to smile there, learning how to smile. My mom behind me with her big hair, my father, my older sister who has since passed, and then my younger sister there in the front. We grew up in a family of 5. My mom worked and still works at Walmart. She has worked at Walmart for 42 years. And what I learned from my mother is a sense of commitment and resolve to getting the job done and not letting anyone discourage you from the work at hand. I remember asking my mom early on how she could be in a company for 40 years with varying bosses that she enjoyed, bosses that she struggled with, positions that she wanted that she didn't get, and positions that she did get. And she said, "Mijo, when you're poor, you have no other options but to work." And so for me, all I could do was work for the next paycheck. There wasn't an option to leave. But my mom taught me a lot about commitment. She taught me a lot about leadership as she became an assistant manager without a degree. As I watched her lead the associates in Walmart, she'd let me come and spend evenings with her as she had some closing shifts, and I would be able to see my mother take on a leadership role in directing the closure of a Walmart store in our hometown. Later on, she decided to go to college. When I told her that I was going to go to college, she said, "I'm going with you." And interestingly enough, my mother went and got an associate's degree and graduated one day before I did with my 4-year bachelor's degree. It's a story of motivation, a story of a young lady in her late 40s who goes back to college, much like many of our community college students, and is committed to education and furthering her career despite her age and despite her circumstances. My dad only did odd jobs throughout all of our lives. He cut lawns. We helped him cut lawns. He picked pecans. We picked up cans and aluminum cans, and we took them down to the recycling center to collect coins. He worked in the cotton fields and was a migrant worker as well. And later in life, he went back when he was in his early 50s to get his GED to show his family the importance of an education. Again, I have two sisters, both who went to college as well as I did. And one of the things that we learned from our parents is how our lives were going to be and the struggle that we were in. Growing up, I was raised in the Catholic Church, and we were strongly committed to going to church and praying. And as I developed my own sense of identity and wanting things that others had, going to school and seeing all the other children with toys that I had never seen, or opportunities that I never knew existed, or vacations that they talked about, I would come home and ask my parents, "Ma, Pa, how do we do that? Why can't we do that?" And my parents never had an understanding of education. They never understood higher education growing up, but they knew that those families had one thing that they didn't have, and that was education. And so they consistently told me, "Mijo, we don't know, but we do know you got to go get your education. If you want a different life, if you want a different perspective, if you want things more than we have, we don't know how to do it, but you got to figure out how to go to college." My parents were always very supportive of pushing me, encouraging me to explore something that they didn't know. As a parent now today, pursuing and encouraging your child to do something that you're unavailable to help them, I see as is something courageous. There hasn't been anything today that my son has asked me to help him with that I haven't already experienced. That luxury didn't exist for me as a first-generation college student. My parents didn't know what an application was. They didn't know what financial aid was, and they didn't know how we would pay for this desire to change our lives. But they knew that through education and through opportunities, hard work, and perseverance, that we would figure it out. And as we did, we figured it out. I grew up, as I said, in Rockdale, which was a predominantly white town. I was poor. We grew up in a 2-bedroom house with 1 restroom. There was a lot of love in our family. My mother had 7 brothers and sisters, all that lived in the same town, and my father had 5 brothers and sisters that all lived in the same town. We were the only Hispanic family in the community at that point in time. And so although there were many of us, we were still isolated to our own family and our own culture, as there was not extended families outside of that. My family, again, pushed us to go to education. And I'll tell you today that I am one of 118 cousins who did graduate from college from my mom's side, and one of 32 first cousins from my father's side that graduated from college. Those numbers are staggering. Those numbers are not something I'm proud of, but I hope to share with you what I've learned through higher education, both as a student and both as an administrator in higher education. It's often I wonder why I was the one, how I was the one, and what did I do differently that perhaps my cousins and family hadn't done? Why was I afforded this opportunity and others weren't? Well, I'll tell you a little bit about my high school. I grew up again in Rockdale, and as I was graduating, I was a C student. The photo there of me in a snappy gold vest was taken in the year 2000. I graduated high school in 2000, and I served as the drum major of the marching band. And so that was my senior photo, my senior headshot. And I was, again, a C student. I wasn't engaged in learning, and I didn't understand the complexities of high school and didn't understand the ramifications of learning. I did have several teachers throughout K-12 who took time to invest in me, who gave me opportunities, and really who told me, contrary to belief, that I could do it. I'll tell you that as all seniors visit with their high school guidance counselor back in 2000 in this small rural town, my senior advisor advised me not to go to a community college, but to go to an apprenticeship, or perhaps to go to a technical school and explore HVAC opportunities, because as she said it, people like me didn't go to college. This is in 2000. This isn't in 1916. This isn't in 1984. This is 20 years ago. Those words of my high school counselor still bother me today. But it's the experience that I share of many students, not isolated to just Hispanic heritage, but to all students, right? I don't think it's the fault of the advisors or the counselors, yet there isn't a lot of support and structure for helping students matriculate from K-12 to the community college or to a four-year university. My English teacher, Sandy Grindle, and my ag teacher, Glenn Hughes, my band director, James Whitus, all encouraged me to try college. And for them, it could have been a random day. For me, it changed my life. They gave me opportunities that I never thought I could do. They believed in me, and I think that was fundamental to who I was. At the end of my senior year, all of my friends were going to college. And so I asked my mom, what am I to do? And mom said, well, I've heard of Blinn College, it's down the way. If you look at the second photo there, I went to Blinn College in Brenham. And she said, mijo, why don't you give that a try? We went into Old Main, which is the building here, and we approached admissions and completed the admissions application. We registered for classes, and we got a bill of $1,296 in 2000 for 12 hours. That's a hell of a deal today. And my mom stood in the hallway speaking Spanish to me, telling me, mijo, I don't know how we're going to pay for this. I said, I don't know how we're going to pay for it either. And as we sat there lost for what seemed like 3 to 4 minutes, probably 30 seconds, a lady walked up to us and said, can I help you guys? And I shared with her, she was a white female, we don't know how we're going to pay for this. And she said, have you ever thought about financial aid? We didn't know what financial aid was. And she walked me through the process, and I was later awarded all financial aid in Pell. But that little act of watching us in the hallway discover what this was and giving us an opportunity and walking us through the process fundamentally changed my life. Had we walked out that day, I don't know that I would have gone to college. For that young lady at Blinn College, who was a financial aid counselor, to walk out, help us, be patient, walk us through the process that was foreign to us, educate us, it was foundational to the start of my college success. College success came later for me. It didn't come initially. I failed out of Blinn College twice. I had to work full time, had a car payment, had a dorm payment that I had to make. Parents couldn't help me. And so I struggled. I struggled in how to learn, how to adapt, and what was coming. I didn't know. And the most important thing is that I found it hard to adjust to freedom without money. When friends were going out and I don't have any money, what do? I found it hard to adjust to an engaged learning environment without experience. So there's a learning environment in K-12, but there's a higher expectation in higher education with faculty. I didn't know how to do it. And I didn't know how to navigate a different culture. Higher education is a different culture without understanding it. And I didn't have anyone to call home and say, Mom, what is the syllabus? What is a bursar? What is an IRS tax document that financial aid means? So I found it really difficult, but there were some really good things that happened to me. The dean of the college there walked me through the appeals process. My mom called, and when I would call back home and tell her, Mom, this is happening, and they're saying I may need to come home. Mijo, you can't come home. Walk into the dean's office and find out what you need to do. There was always persistence and determination, and my parents didn't know exactly if there was the right answer, but they knew that I could continue to talk, I could be persistent, I could ask questions, and I could tell my story, and that's exactly what I did. I'll share with you one example of engaged learning and being a poor first-gen Latino student. When I would finish my first semester, I would look around and see everybody's college textbooks, and they would be highlighted and underlined and drawings in it. And I would be writing, or I would be preserving my textbook, because at the end of the semester, I needed to make sure that I could take it back into the bookstore and resell it for a profit so that I could eat the following month. And as one faculty member pulled me aside, and my grades were not doing well, and she said, "Why aren't you learning with the book?" And I said, "Well, I can't learn with the book because the bookstore told me the nicer that I keep it, the better that they'll give me in terms of price for return." And she looked at me and she said, "You can't think of this book as dollars. You got to think of it as an investment. You've got to learn. You've got to draw. You've got to engage. You've got to highlight. You got to fold." And I looked around and saw all of my counterparts doing it. And it fundamentally changed how I learned, how I perceived learning, how I engaged, of wanting to persevere and preserve this for funding really restricted me and challenged me in this narrative. At Blinn College, I found a young lady who I thought was beautiful. She is now my wife. At the time was my girlfriend. And she made it very clear to me that if she was going to bring someone home to her parents, that they were going to be college educated with a degree. They were going to be a good student. And I tell you, fellas, for me, that was enough motivation to become an engaged learner with a great attitude. It changed who I was. She taught me how to study. She taught me the things I didn't know. We were vulnerable together and learned, and together decided to transfer to Texas Tech University in Lubbock, Texas. We decided to transfer to Texas Tech because we both got music scholarships and were part of the marching band out in Lubbock. My mom, who had never driven outside of our little community in Rockdale, drove 8 hours away to drop me off. It was something that was perplexing to me. I'd never seen my mom drive to any town, much less take a map and navigate across the state of Texas from the Austin area to the Lubbock area. She drove, she packed my car, I drove behind her, she unpacked and I unpacked my dorm room. We cried. She gave me $50 and a tank of gas and said, "Mijo, that's all I can give you." She walked away, and I didn't know how to transition into this new environment. Transferring from a community college to a university can be very, very difficult and challenging. At this time, I became part of the band and the culture, and I was able to find friends immediately. The picture on the left are all my band friends back then. One thing that you can notice is that I look different. Out of the marching band of over 400 members, there were 2 Latinos, 2 Hispanics in the band, me and my wife. And although we were never treated differently, we were welcomed. The people of West Texas were the most gracious people there. We noticed that we were different. As part of my advising, I became a political science major, and my advisor suggested that I take a class on Chicano literature. And so I took the class, and it literally changed my life. It gave me a new perspective, and it really defined my identity and gave me a lesson in my culture and allowed me to be proud of who I was. For so long, I strived to assimilate to what was around me, not knowing and not understanding that I brought true value. As a Hispanic, as a Latino, as a Chicano, that I brought value in diverse perspectives and alternatives. It allowed me to understand my gente's history, what had gone from Cabeza de Vaca to Spain conquering Mexico, to the border moving, to the Zoot Suit riots of California. I felt emboldened, I felt educated, and I felt smart for the first time in my life. I also struggled with the process of higher education. I struggled with financial aid. It seemed like I could never get my money. There was always an issue. They needed additional documentation. I had to work part-time and work full-time, and my family lived 8 hours away. What I knew at the end of my time at Texas Tech is I knew how to navigate college. I knew how to navigate a community college, I knew how to transfer, and I knew how to navigate a higher ed institution. I knew how to do financial aid at this point. I knew how to do admissions. I knew how to do loans. Therefore, by default, when I graduated, I looked into working in higher ed. That's all I knew. I knew how to navigate a higher education system. So I started as a recruiter back at Blinn College and was encouraged by colleagues to pursue a master's degree. I had always thought people with master's degrees and doctorate degrees were brilliant masterminds and that I could never be that. It was through my interactions with faculty and staff who said, "You can do this. We see it in you. Go and do it." I went to TCU, I applied. I was denied 3 times. Each time I was denied, it was because I had a low GPA at Texas Tech University. My final plea to the dean of the college at TCU was in an appeals letter and an appeals visit, where I said to the dean, "You don't know who I am. I'm a first-generation college student. I just navigated this. I just learned how to do this. Can you give me a shot?" And he said he would let me in conditionally. And if after the first semester I was able to make it, then he'd let me into the program. And I was able to make it. When I was pursuing the master's degree, I moved up in administration from an admissions counselor to a recruiter, to a coordinator, to a director of student life, to a director of enrollment management, a dean of enrollment management, dean of student services, and what I am today, an associate vice president of enrollment management. Throughout that process, I knew I wanted a doctorate degree, and other people could see it in me. The photo on the right is the day that I got my acceptance letter into Texas A&M with my parents, my mother and my father. And I share with you that in my process, I underestimated what I have to offer. I applied to Sam Houston. I applied to the University of Houston. I applied to Texas A&M, and I applied to Harvard. And I did that because I wanted a spectrum to see, I think I could get into Sam. I'm not sure I could get into anywhere else. As I received the letters, the first letter came in and it was from Sam, and it was a denial that said that I didn't have enough experience. The second letter came in and it was from the University of Houston, main campus, that said I wasn't an ideal candidate. So for sure, when I received the letter from Texas A&M, they were gonna laugh at me and tell me, "You're not part of this class." Instead, they say, "We appreciate your diversity. We appreciate your perspective and your perseverance. You're admitted." Interestingly enough, Harvard responded and admitted me as well. It was a decision that I had to make. And for my culture, for my family, we decided to go to Texas A&M so we didn't have to relocate. But the lesson learned here is that your perspective matters, your heritage matters, your story matters. And for those of us who underestimate ourselves or don't believe that we have a role or an opportunity, I hope for you today that you understand you always deserve an opportunity and a role. Next month, I'll finish my PhD as I defend my dissertation after 10 years. It will have taken me 10 years to complete this degree. And in those 10 years, I've had 7 promotions. I've built 2 houses. I've had a child. And I've done a whole bunch of work in scholarship and research. I have discovered that education has been very powerful for me. It has single-handedly changed my life. And what I learned is persistence is real, and the imposter syndrome that you read about is also real. Although you can't let it paralyze you, it's okay to think it and it's okay to feel it, but it's also okay to push forward and challenge the status quo. Here we are today. Through education, you can see a generational change. And I hope through the photos that I shared with you at the beginning and the photos that I shared with you at the end, you too can see my progress. Education is a generational change, and it changes who I am, changed who my parents were, and certainly has changed who my child is and the environment he will be raised in. I've made several mistakes along the way. And I understand that short-term losses come for long-term gains. There are things within the Hispanic community that I found overwhelmingly challenging. I had to challenge family norms, family get-togethers. I had to challenge weekends with my parents. I had to challenge the notion that perhaps I could make more money by helping the family immediately rather than going to school long-term. These are cultural challenges that you'll find as faculty, staff, and students that we may all go through despite your cultural affiliation. But I'll tell you, if you're persistent, if you put education first, you will never regret it in the end. I find myself serving students at the community college and the university because of my history and my background. I know what it's like to be a first-generation college student walking into an orientation, not knowing anyone and not even knowing what to ask. I understand first-generation and Latino students, the complexities of their identities, their background, their culture, and I share this with you as faculty and staff so that when you engage with students, despite their cultural affiliation, that you understand their identity is complex. I'll never forget the first day I was teaching, the first year of teaching as an adjunct faculty, and I had a student who came in and looked totally disruptive. I mean, just was crying, was beside herself. At the end of class, I asked her to stay back and I asked her what was going on. And she said to me that her father had just passed away 2 hours before the class, and that she didn't know what to do but to come to class. And it taught me a valuable lesson that our students are going through complex lives. They're going through complex situations. And even now in the midst of COVID-19, there's even more difficult situations our students are going through. Moving on to who decides. Who decides our identity, right? I decided my identity, and I encourage you all to decide your identity. Others will decide it for you, but you have to share your story. You have to share your identity, and you have to draw the boundaries of who you are. I said I'm a Mexican American, and I honor that in honoring the heritage and including the word Mexican in describing myself for my grandparents, my great-grandparents, and my great-great-grandparents who were descendants, right? I call myself Hispanic because I want to honor the Spanish-speaking side of my family. I call myself Latino so that I could honor the culture of being inclusive of all people of Latin American origin. Now there's a term called Latinx that's even inclusive of gender binary students, right? Chicano. I want to honor the indigenous Americans who were here previously and were included and supported through multiple efforts, but also have fought for equity in education, in culture, and historic relevance. I call myself a Tejano to honor my Texas roots. I have decided my identity, and I encourage you to solidify your identity. I do it through my activism work, through my scholarly articles, through my social media. It's not single, it's complex, and who decides this and when they decide it is currently evolving. It changes as I learn more information, as I study, and as I engage with others. I challenge each of you to define your identity and make sure that people understand who you are, where you came from, and the perspectives that you bring. I hope you also understand that culture is complex, that identity is multi-layered, and that it's not singular. Who decides our destiny? We do. We all decide. Today is the first day of early voting in the great state of Texas, and you can participate in that destiny by voting. You can continue to be educated and expand the regional and state economy and benefits of being an educated citizen. You can help others by changing their environment and giving generational prestige. It's not a wonder that our demographics in Texas are changing. So too is leadership. When you look at Houston alone, the county judge, Lina Hidalgo, the police chief, Art Acevedo, the fire chief, Sam Pena, these are leaders who are deciding the destiny of not only themselves, not only their departments, but the perspectives and the culture of Hispanics and Latinos throughout the great state of Texas. I want you to know that people are here to help you in your journey. People at the College of Mainland are here to help you. As I was preparing for this, I read a list of things that the College of the Mainland is doing, and as your president indicated prior with the grants and the HSI designation, there's a lot going on with the College of the Mainland. I hope you utilize those services, and I hope that you enjoyed today's speech. Thank you all. Rafael or any other persons?
Thank you, Daniel. You are better than I thought. So
Well, I appreciate it.
I didn't know that about you. So Tash, would you take or Dalel for the questions, because I don't know how to go about the questions. Could you, Tash, please? If people have questions.
Sure.
Zach, are you going to take over questions? Or
I mean, anyone that has a question can ask
Yeah.
a chat, or
yeah,
they
if you have
can.
any questions for Daniel or anyone on the committee, please put it in the chat, and we'd be happy to get those answered. Daniel, I really appreciate your presentation. Very strong and great job. Thank you for being here today.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Villanueva. That was a wonderful, wonderful story.
Thank you so much. Any questions? Let's see.
So I have a question for you, Dr. Villanueva, if that's okay to ask.
Sure.
Okay. So can you talk to us about the need for students taking advantage of resources? We're always wanting students to take more advantage of resources. Can you talk to us about your journey and what you now know and what you do differently concerning resources as you went through your long and successful journey academically?
Yeah, I think it's one of the most underutilized things on a college campus are the resources. The writing center, the library, tutoring centers, extended hours, departmental faculty office hours. I do think that for higher education, we have to acclimate to what our students want and need. And I think our models have to be challenged in how we deliver them. But that's not to say that they're not there and they're executed well. For me, I, early in my career, did not take advantage of these. I didn't understand that they were for me. I was going to orientation and people mentioned them to me, but orientation for me was so overwhelming with the amount of information that I couldn't really understand what was there. So I think for me, I learned later in my master's and certainly my PhD that there were resources available and understood that I paid for them. And when I thought about it and I understood that I paid for them, I think my perspective changed radically. For instance, in my dissertation, I had a dissertation librarian assigned to me at the college library, right? Which meant that when I needed sources pulled and when I needed additional information, I had someone who could go and research those and upload those to me. There's a lot of students who don't even take advantage of that today as a doctoral student. But at the community college, there are a number of resources with the Title V grants, any TRIO programs that you may have, that those students may qualify if they fit the parameters of the grant. But I would encourage them to take advantage early. And not only will they be able to get additional resources, but they will make contact with faculty and staff who can help guide them later on in their career or possibly write letters of recommendation for graduate school.
Yes. Could you talk a little bit more about that, about the beauty of the student faculty mentorship that's possible there?
Yeah, I think, I have a syllabus that I show on the first day when I teach. And it's my course syllabus that by design, the institution I'm required to do. And then I have what I call is my checklist, which is a course syllabus. And it's a notion with higher ed that we have to change the dialogue, right? Students don't understand what a syllabus is. I know that when I came in and faculty would say, I have open hours, as a first gen, what is that? Open hours to like come see you, open hours to get like, what are open hours, right? And so I think for students, these open hours truly are where faculty are in their office and or available online, and you can have intellectual discussions with them. You can better understand assignments with them. And for me, to come back to Blinn and to get the job that I did to start as a recruiter was because my government faculty member that I stayed in contact with was on the committee. So in addition to being able to guide me through transition, she also leveraged an opportunity to recommend me for my first full-time position. These relationships are not symbiotic, right? These relationships are developed, they're cultivated. And I'll tell you a little secret to all the students out there. Faculty really do want to get to know their students, right? But some of that responsibility is on the students to go and knock, go and email, or stop by the office and visit with them and cultivate that relationship and formally ask, can you be my mentor, rather than just stopping and assuming a conversation is exactly what is needed.
Thank you. Yes. To all the students out there, please take advantage of everything that Dr. Villanova is saying.
Let me just interject here, Daniel. That's a very good point. You know, students need to know, to have people to help them through all the processes. And I think one of the things that at the College of the Mainland I personally do, it is with the Hispanic Student Alliance. It's an organization that has had many names in the past. What we try to do is, you know, all those students interested in Hispanic issues, they come from Hispanic backgrounds, just to help them. Like with Dalel, with Professor Serta, we work together. We do things. We introduce them to other Hispanic faculty, so they know where to go to. And I think that Tash, for example, is always very supportive of faculty-student interaction. And I think that the College of Mainland, we're very lucky to have Tash, because he tries to instill in the faculty the necessity to talk to students, and to the students to talk to us. So that's a good use of the resources of the college.
Yeah, I also think representation matters, right? If you're a Latina, you want to see a faculty member somewhere on the campus that looks like you, right? If you're a single mom who's a white female who's walking around campus, you probably want to run into a faculty member who has once been a single mother or is a current single mother, because representation matters. And I think for higher education in general, we fall short on making sure that our administrators at the highest level and all faculty represent all of the diversity of an institution.
Any student want to ask a question?
We don't have any questions in the chat yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to encourage all of you students to, especially mine, I see a few that are from my classes, to really force yourself to generate a question. This is an opportunity. We are here taking time out of our schedules. Dr. Villanueva is, and so are you. So let's make this worthwhile last 8 minutes, if you have that time with us.
You know,
I'll also mention that the College of the Mainland is institutional member of the Texas Association of Chicanos of Higher Education. If any, Daniel, could you tell us a little bit about what it is? That would be a service to the staff and faculty at the College of the Mainland. Could you tell us a little bit more about TACHE?
Sure. TACHE is, as Rafael had mentioned, Texas Association of Chicanos in Higher Education, and it's open to all members despite any heritage or cultural affiliation. And we are for the promotion and development of Chicano and Latino faculty and staff, and promoting them in higher education, whether it's from assistant professor to associate professor or tenured professors that we work with, or if it's from deans moving to directors, or even hiring presidents for community colleges and universities. We have a professional development program in place that takes Latino leaders who are at every step of the phase in their career, and we develop them with outside constituencies in hopes for the promotion of these Latinos. As I said before, diversity and representation matters. In addition, we annually have a statewide conference every February. This year it will be in May, because we're pushing it back because of COVID-19, where faculty, staff, and students from across the state come and learn about pedagogy that impacts Latino student success. They can learn about initiatives that HSIs from around the state are doing, as well as a celebration at the end of the event that highlights outstanding faculty, outstanding administrators, and outstanding staff at both the community college level and the university level within the great state of Texas. We are a strong association that pushes for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we also work on contract work with several community colleges and universities as they are transitioning into searching for high-level positions.
Thank you, Daniel. So please, yes, let me know. I am the contact person between TACHE and the College of the Mainland. So let me know. We have 5 free memberships that we can take advantage of. Mm-hmm. Any student? I see just a student. I see a student. One of the students who won the prizes from Oaxaca. So just so you know that I am from Oaxaca too. So just so you all know. Okay. Tash, you're the king. Mm-hmm.
Well, We have 5 minutes left. I don't have a problem ending early if we have no further questions.
No,
Yep,
Uh,
sadly none in the chat.
Oh, well, we got one here. Sonia, go ahead.
Hi, yes. I'm not only working for College of the Mainland, but I'm also a Hispanic student as well this semester. And I can say from working on the staff side versus being a student, at times you really want to go, like as a student, you really want an open door. I think it's very important as staff or as faculty is to make sure that you leave that open door and smile and try to make the students feel comfortable, because especially a freshman coming in, and possibly this freshman could have been only 3 years into high school, not even completing the full 4 years. So you're having a student come in from a high school setting into a freshman setting, in which I was one of them. And it is intimidating. It is very intimidating. It is definitely academia is in a college setting is definitely higher. It's more on individual basis versus the whole classroom basis. Is that you have what you put in is what you're going to get out. So I believe that looking at both and just thinking of the type of culture that we hold, that sometimes as instructors or as staff, you have to open that door for some students. You kind of have to not nurture them, but in a way, somehow break that ice. I think that's very important as far as, the in between the two, I think. But that's just my thought process.
Thank you, Sonia. It's nice to
No
see you.
problem.
Gosh,
Nice to see you too.
I uh, I noticed that we have a board member with us. Would it be possible for Dr. McGarvey to say a few words as a representative of our community at the college? Dr. McGarvey, I always do that to you. The microphone.
You're on mute, Dr.
Muted,
McGarvey.
Mr. McGarvey.
Rafael, I feel like I'm back in your Spanish class, hoping you won't call on me, and then you call on me. But Dr. Villanueva, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. It's a true success story. Please keep sharing it. I'm sure it will inspire others to also change their lives through education. And it did remind me of when I was a student back at College of the Mainland. And one of the reasons that I really have this great fondness for College of the Mainland was because of faculty members there who gave me the confidence that if I would only try, could succeed at college. And it did also turn my life around and change my life. So please continue. Thank you for that story, and please continue sharing it with people and your students. And thank you all again for all of you on the committee that put together this great Hispanic Heritage celebration. And thank you for inviting me to be here for this presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Rafa, one thing, will you highlight the Mexican consulate's visit to the campus?
So one of the things that we have at the College of the Mainland, it is that we invite the Mexican consulate at least once or twice a year to come to our area, to our campus, to provide consular services. And out of that relationship, I talked to Daniel, and we invited the Mexican consulate to touch it. So they will talk to us about what a consulate is. So yes, so please keep an eye on our announcements. As far as I know, I'm not sure, somebody has to correct me later, but from November the 2nd to November the 13th, I hear that they're coming. I'm not sure yet, so I don't want anybody to get me for saying things. But November the 2nd to November the 13th, the Mexican consulate will be here providing consular services to the Mexican community in the whole service area. Again, Tash, one of the things that the services does, it helps the consulate to feel comfortable, to feel at home, and to be able to serve the community. I thank Carrie, I thank Tash for being so supportive of this relationship with the Mexican consulate.
Well, we're at 1:30, and great job for everyone's participation and feedback. And I look forward to working with this committee to make it also bigger and better for next year. It's going to be hard, Dr. Villanueva, that you're topping your story. So maybe we'll just welcome you back for next year.
No problem. Just let me know how I could be of service and help. I will tell you, just a closing remarks, that the College of Mainland has to be proud of your Hispanic Heritage Month. I work with many institutions in consulting as well as researching 21 different universities for my dissertation. And because institutions are Hispanic serving, does not always mean that they truly appreciate. And my research with the College of the Mainland, both involved today and prior, is that the College of the Mainland is committed to Latino student success. When I got the list of things that were happening, as well as outside of this Hispanic Heritage Month, it is an honor, and you all should be very, very thankful, because I know several institutions that are HSIs that don't even acknowledge the month exists. So I commend you, the board members, the president, and the committee for all the work in bringing this to students and representing Hispanic Heritage Month this month.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you to all the students. Everybody have a lovely day.